Good morning, good morning. Rise and shine. I hope you're up. I hope you're listening. My name is Lisa Dublin, along with Thecla Deterville. Very accomplished professional woman, and I must say she is the mother of a friend as well, my childhood friend from high school, Nandy. And so, Thecla, thank you so much for being here. I am super excited. I feel like, yeah, I am super excited. Thank you for being here. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm fine. I'm really good. Thank you.
So everybody, welcome. And so Thecla Deterville is an accomplished St. Lucian woman. Out of St. Lucia for a little bit right now, but we're connecting over the other, let's say that way. And she has so much experience dealing with people on so many levels. She has been in several managerial positions across the region and now brings her expertise to bear in all sorts of ways, doing executive coaching and that kind of thing. So, Tekla, it's just a pleasure. This week, we're talking about work relationships. And, it's a topic that definitely, I think, it brings a lot of angst. And it causes a lot of breakups and all of that. It's something that people have to deal with all the time, dealing with people that you might not really want to deal with out of the workspace, but you have to, if that's one way to look at it. So let's start there. Tell us a little bit about yourself. We have many people, when I put up the promo yesterday, Tekla said, "Oh my goodness, I haven't seen her in a long time." So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Okay, yeah, like you said, my name is Thecla Deterville. I'm currently the managing director of my own consulting and soft skills training company called Celestial Self Development Center. I
Mhm.
also have the franchise for Franklin Covey East Caribbean, where I have a license to cover eight of the islands in the region. As you know, Franklin Covey is an internationally recognized leadership development outfit
Mhm.
and out of the US. And so I thought that when I started Celestial, I recognized that there was a gap in terms of the executive training. Somehow, the second 11 always came in to be trained, but then the executives, were nowhere at the table. So I thought that would be a good way to, bring something closer to home, with the intention of, bringing up the standards, overall, because oftentimes people come to training and then you hear them, the feedback you will get is that, hey, this is good stuff, but the people who some of the people that are not here should really be here.
Be here all the time.
So
Yeah.
you hear that all the time. So
Mhm.
that's what I do primarily. I do, like I said, I do a bit of coaching, and not it's not my full time thing, but I do get requests for it, and when the request comes, I definitely
Definitely.
oblige. I would do that, but
Hmm.
my primary thing is capacity building, and I do that to soft skills training, and COVID has really, opened up a new world because of the ability to do it virtually.
Hmm.
So that and sometimes people say virtually, that's not so impactful. We pride ourselves on doing highly interactive virtual sessions, and when
Hmm.
we do, I think our clients are usually very pleased and satisfied with what we do. So the virtual space has really opened up, something that maybe some 5-10 years ago we would not have thought was possible. So
Yeah, for sure. To have several facets of you coming out already this morning, Tekla. Like, good morning, Mrs. Nedballer, because you are accomplished where that is concerned. Some people are knowing you in
uh,
different
thank,
in
thank
different
you, thank
capacities.
you. Yeah,
Yeah,
yes. Oh yeah, I
that's
remember in my netball days I had a wicked throw. Some people, didn't like to get a ball from me because I sent it so hard. But I enjoyed netball. I
oh
really, really
wow.
enjoyed it. While I
Do,
played and even as a spectator, it's something I really enjoyed.
okay, do you still get out? Do you still go? Yeah. Do you still?
Well, I usually, in fact, some again because of COVID, some time ago, I was able to do um, a session on governance
Hmm.
for the CNA, the Korean Netball Association. It was something through the through the secretariat. They had got some funding from ECCB, and while the downtime of COVID, this decision was to have, a good governance training
Mm.
for the various islands, and I was able to facilitate that. So I do keep, and I've been on the disciplinary committee and things like that. So I do keep in touch, with netball.
Yeah. This is amazing because we're going live on not just within our club, the To All the Girls Success Club, but we're also going live just on general Facebook. So we do have comments from, I'm like, hi, Marcellus. So there's a comment there from Marcellus saying that he did some training with you, customer service training on emotional intelligence while employed with Sagicor, and it can be applied immediately. So
Mhm,
definitely the training continues and continued through obviously COVID, and now pivoting back, I guess, into the face-to-face world, that kind of thing. But what we're
mhm,
here to talk about, you guys, before I go on, this lady, one of the things when I read the bio was that she has been married for 42 years, and to wonderful man, Hilford de Turville. He passed 8 years ago. And I just wanted to, we were talking about that before we came on, because it's just an amazing feat, if I may say. You want to just talk a little bit about that before we get into conflict
mhm.
resolution, Tekla? 42 years of marriage, like, how did you do it?
Yeah, well, right. I think sometimes people say, I think there's a saying, opposites attract.
Mm-hmm.
I think Wilfred and I were, we weren't the same people. Um, I think what I would say sometimes, I to say he complimented me in terms of he was more outgoing, more forthright. He said what he had to say when he had to say it. I could not teach him emotional intelligence, is a good way to say it. So regardless of what my skill sets are, in terms of being able to impart that kind of knowledge, I recognize I could not,
Mm-hmm.
and so for me, the first thing I start was to accept people for who and what they are. None of us can change anybody. Okay, so
Yeah.
I knew this person. I recognize, I say, well, hey, this is what I can take, this is what I cannot take. So I'm very clear on that.
Mm.
But within that parameter, you work on that. This is the person I married. I married X, with all his strengths,
Yep.
his weaknesses, whatever. I saw it. It wasn't hidden. I knew it. I went in with my eyes wide open. So I know what I mean. So just, I mean, we did little things like, for instance, if we went out, I
Mm-hmm.
knew Gilbert would be in a group saying whatever he wanted to say. We come together, we see, I go one way, he goes the other way. Occasionally he come and say, can I get you a drink or something? So, and that was fine, because sometimes I would just stand where I am and look across at the group where he is, and I just see people disappear, and I know, oh goodness,
He said something.
he said something people don't normally see, So I think that for me, that first accepting of people for who they are
Mm-hmm.
is really a good place to start. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the other thing is to, again, to sometimes you have to compromise.
Yeah.
Sometimes, though it says, there's also a saying that when you compromise, it means neither person get what they want, because it's also a compromise is, I'm giving up something and you giving up something. But sometimes, I mean, it's not your mood, it's not everything that all the time you compromise, but you have to make the decision as to what your priorities are, what's most important to you in your life. And so the
Mm-hmm.
decisions you make um, has to be underpinned by those priorities. So if,
Conversions.
for instance, if it's a case of, he wants to do one thing and I want to do another thing, what is most important to me at the time? Is it,
Yeah.
me just satisfying that particular thing, or the longer term, in terms of, hey, if I do that now, next time you'll do something with, that kind of thing. So it calls for that. I think it calls for understanding. And it also calls for understanding of self. You really, you cannot lose yourself into some. You need to know who you are, be comfortable in your own skin,
Mm-hmm.
and and recognize other people for what they are and who they are. Yes,
Yeah.
there will be ups and downs. There will be times where, but again, one of the things, and in fact, I cannot even, this is not something I can take on to me, but it's something that Hilford insisted on. We never went to bed angry with each other. He just would not allow me. If we had a quarrel during the course of the day, we
So
will
you all
not
talk about it before you went to bed.
we
You had
will
to.
not go to bed angry with each other. That never
Wow.
happened. So to say when I get up next morning and I'm vexed because of something that happened yesterday, no. I
So
mean,
was it I always was it the decision to finish, as we say, finish
as,
with
as,
that,
as
or?
simple as that, we are not going to bed angry with each other.
Hmm.
As simple as that.
Oh my gosh.
And that was right through our marriage.
Hmm.
So it, and like I said, I'm not going to take credit for it because he insisted on it and he ensured that it happened.
Hmm.
you know
Wow.
and I
Your
think,
face just lights up when you talk about Hilfa. Your face just lights up, and
but
you know.
it's I mean, after being with somebody for 42 years, I mean, if he were around, 24th of June this year would have been 50 years since we
Wow.
were married.
Mm.
But like I said, we were not the same people. He
Mhm.
had his strengths, I had mine. We met where, like I said, I think he complimented me, very well. And It's a case of, one of the things I said, I remember when Hilford and I first started going out. Because again, our bringing was totally different. So I
Mhm.
knew, maybe, the kind of attention, I grew up, I was my mother's only child. It's true, my father had about 23 of us, so from
Oh
last count.
wow. Okay.
But
Uh-huh.
I was my mother's only child, and he also was his mother's only child, and his father had other
Mm.
children. And it's a case of when we started. One thing says, I really don't think I know what love is, but what I can say to you is that I'm committed to you.
Oh wow. So that you
I'm
would grow
committed to you.
together.
So it's a
Mm-hmm.
case of, I think the relationship grew over time.
Mm-hmm.
The relationship grew, and like I tell people, love shows itself in different ways at different stages of your life.
You know,
You know.
okay, so you know what? Like, definitely, please, I'm inviting you back publicly because there's a week this month in May when we're going to be looking at romantic relationships, marriage, and that kind of thing. I would love to invite you back, spend some more time with us, and give this time to this relationship, this marriage. So that's my ask, Tekla, number one. So 3 days this week. We're going to be here tomorrow as well, and we'll do another day in May, like when we talk about, those personal romantic relationships, because there's so much to unpack. Now, as a way of segueing into speaking about work relationships, why does it seem like a lot of the things that you spoke about in your marriage seem to apply to how we handle the workplace? In terms of compromise, in terms of knowing yourself and how you present yourself, knowing what you can take and what you can't. So let's start off from that perspective. Um, what causes conflict in the workplace? And secondly, how much of it is on us?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to, like, I get relationships are relationships, regardless
Mm,
of where you put them. And one of the things I always say to people is, mm, do unto others as you'd have done unto you. Yeah. And so if we look at that basic golden rule, we will understand a lot of the things that can go wrong. Um, Sometimes those conflicts may come out of fear. They come out of fear. People are, are not sure of themselves. The conflicts may come out of people, not understanding the environment, not understanding what they're supposed to do. Sometimes it's just, maybe envy. Although
mhm.
it's not a word I like to use.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm being, you have to face the reality. Um, Sometimes we have our own personal issues that we bring into the workplace. I say to people all the time, I said, if you feel somebody doesn't like you, be honest with yourself and ask yourself whether you like that person. Because
Wow.
sometimes what you've seen in there is really a mirror of yourself.
Hmm.
Because what we don't like to accept is that sometimes the feeling is mutual.
Yeah.
Then I would say that, I don't think this woman like me. But the question is, do I like her? And
And
so,
then when you face yourself that way,
yeah,
what do you do? Because like you know how we get on well, we get on better with some people than others. Why we agree on that, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. There's some people whose disposition, or their way of being, the way they put themselves forward, the way they behave, that you have, there's a natural affinity to having a
Mm-hmm.
good relationship with them. But then
Mm-hmm.
we cannot paint everybody with the same brush. We are all different. We are all uniquely different. And so what I see in you as an individual that I would like, that will sort of, I could gravitate to you, easily. Um, it would not necessarily be the same. But again, if we say all the time that, like, again, I have a spiritual life, so I can
Yeah,
sometimes,
absolutely.
interject
Yeah.
that. We say we're all children of God. And if we say we're all children of God, who are we to decide that this person is not a child of God?
Mm-hmm.
And so if we just have that empathy, maybe, sometimes the way we speak to people, we speak to one person one way, and then we turn around and we speak to somebody, in another way. So you maybe you recognize, you walk into a workplace, and you can have a conversation. You can see somebody's having a conversation with you, and they're very polite, and that
Mm-hmm.
person turns around and backs literally at a colleague of theirs.
Yeah.
And so what's that about? Where's the consistency? Where's the standard?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Is it, why is it's okay, it's not okay to speak to me that way? Why is it okay to speak to somebody else that way?
Yeah.
So,
So,
and we have to recognize the people as individuals. Everybody has their own story.
mhm.
And sometimes if we took the time out to find out people's stories, our perception of them is likely to change. And if our
Mm.
perception changes, then our behavior changes.
Yeah,
And
that
because
is true.
everything starts with a thought, we think things through. There's the Covey has this they say the stimulus and the response, and between the stimulus and the response,
Yes.
there's the element of choice in the middle. And
Mm-hmm.
so, we have to, sometimes it takes us a little longer to make that choice. Sometimes it's almost instant, but it's instantaneous because of, our own thinking, because of who we are, because of how we present,
Okay.
to the type of thinking that goes into, maybe we do not take time to clarify what's going on. We do not understand what's happening. We don't take a decision, and then we may act, but act without having gone through the process of, making that decision, whether it's something that needs to be done, you know immediately, or is it something that we can take the time to mull on.
Okay.
So
And many of the relationships where we are not being very successful, it pays to really step back, as you're talking about reflection, and to see what's going on here and how can I be different, right? I want to go back to something you said about, okay, we said we get on better with some people than others. The last couple years, the people that I don't get along well with, I have had to make decisions to manage that relationship a little more closely, because it is easier to get into conflict with such relationships as opposed to other people who you naturally fall into the flow with. You understand them, they understand you. If there are problems, they can easily be resolved. But you as you live, I guess you realize that there might be some personalities that you don't get along as well with, and you kind of have to make the decision to stop and do things a bit differently in that kind of relationship. I'm not sure if that makes any sense.
Absolutely, you're correct. It has to be a concerted effort. There has to be a decision, because
Hmm.
when you have a workplace where there's conflict, I mean, it has, it is more stressful. It affects productivity. The atmosphere is heavy. You come in, you just been in there, have you exhausted. There's so many negatives to conflict. But the thing is, in addition to the negatives, conflict can also have its positives.
Yeah.
And it's conflict unresolved. That's the problem. If conflict arises and then you take the decision to, you work at it, you look to resolve it, then that makes a difference. So the conflict in itself is not what's bad, it's allowing it to go unattended to. And sometimes we have a tendency to do that. The
Mm-hmm.
conflict is there, we let it fester, it moves from bad to worse, and then we end up literally with a crisis on our hands because we've not dealt with it in a timely manner when we should have.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
if there is conflict and it is looked at in a timely manner, it could uncover some of the things that are happening that you may not be aware of. It could help, it could help you increase and improve the communication, within the unit or within the
Mm-hmm.
organization. People tend to look closer at things. People get a clear understanding of what's going on, and it may, some good ideas may just come out of having to
Yeah.
resolve the conflict.
I
What the
have
danger
those good
is
ideas. Sorry, those
unresolved.
good ideas that you speak
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
You have to be a big person for you to be able to take the positive from conflict. Like some people, the minute they get there's conflict, they tend to withdraw or to
Mhm,
think that something's bad. But
mhm.
if you can look at it as something that can actually grow you, the organization, the unit, whatever, then the way we approach conflict is different.
Mhm. Yeah, but like again, like I said, it's just not letting it fester. It's dealing
Yeah,
with it but it will. We human beings, so
yeah.
there will be conflict. There will be conflict in any environment that you pick. But again, it's how it's handled, and it's
Mm-hmm.
about making that concern. And then eventually, sometimes you have people who are extremely difficult. You give them the opportunity. You have the dialogue with them. You give them the opportunity to get things right. The other thing, one of the areas again that really causes a lot of conflict is our mode of communication. And
Yeah.
that's one we, whether it's the tone of voice we use when speaking to certain people, whether we, the information that we share, how we
Mm-hmm.
share it. If we, we have it and we figure, well, knowledge, information is power, so we keep all of it to ourselves. People don't know. There's uncertainty. People are not sure what's happening. There's a lack of trust. People don't trust us.
Mm-hmm.
So
There are lots of, yeah.
yes, some of those things could really lead to
Mm-hmm.
conflict. It will happen. Is how we manage it. And then if within the conflict space is that sometimes you have the most challenging people to deal with is people who are passive aggressive.
Oh wow, wow,
Yes.
we're in the land of that right now.
Mm.
People say that a lot about Canadian society. That is pretty
Yeah,
passive aggressive.
yeah, because you sort of you're not sure what they're about. But again, the only way you can uncover it is through communication. And
Mm-hmm.
communication where you listen. Not only
Mm-hmm.
where you do the talking, but you ask the questions, you ask the right questions, you ask the pertinent questions, and you listen. I think too often listening is a challenge for us.
Mm-hmm.
We talk a lot, but we don't listen. And I think if we listen more, we will get more solutions to more problems. Than that we just keep talking and talking and talking and talking, and even talking, over rather than listen to what people have to say. What are their concerns? What's irking them? That is one we need to listen much more than we
Technically,
do.
before we came on, we were also speaking this thing about giving people the benefit of the doubt and not showing up feeling a certain way, and that's where the asking the questions and listening a little more can come in as a way of perhaps dealing with a passive aggressive situation. When you said give people the benefit of the doubt and let them prove you differently. I wanted to talk on that a little while, for a bit. How does that benefit anybody as opposed to coming with your armor up and ready to stick it to them the minute they say anything?
You see, when you come up with the armor, you may be even doing yourself a disservice. You come, ready for battle. I'm not saying that you should allow yourself to be surprised. You need to,
Yes.
scope the place, come up with what your thoughts are. But these are those impressions that you formulate in
Mhm.
the early stages. They may not necessarily be, you know what is factual. It may be your own perception based on a number of things, based on your experiences, based on your upbringing, and based on, a number of
Based on what you saw on television this morning, even that, and you
see,
just appropriate, you know,
yeah. So,
everything.
so you come in with those, and you associate a certain look, a certain somebody with different things, or somebody who you didn't like as a child. That person reminds you of the person. That sometimes could be the reason why we don't get on with people. And
Yeah.
the thinking of the 7 8 year old, or the teacher that you didn't like. This person reminds you of the teacher because of how they speak, because of how they behave. So, and these all of these things come into the relationship, because we have those perceptions, we have those thoughts in relation. But again, if you give people the benefit of that, it means that you're not opening yourself to attack.
Hmm.
But you go with the flow. You
Hmm.
see what, hey, I'm not going to be the person who's going to react negatively. Let me see what this is all about. Let me see where this can go. And you open to it. You're
Hmm.
not coming with a set position, and that is how I feel, and that is who I am, and that is how I'm going to be. And in this particular system, you have to be fluid. There has to be a level of flexibility, because at the end of the day, it's what it is you want. You want
Yeah.
to work in an environment which is pleasant. You do not want to come into a place where, as soon as you walk in, your neck stiffens up, your shoulders are thing, and your face is hardened. It's not in your best interest. So you do not perpetuate what you do not want. And
Yeah.
so, if we know what we want, we know what the environment, what type of environment we would like to work in,
Hmm.
then we have to play our part in creating that environment. And like I said, we're human beings, so yes, conflict will arise, but the important thing is how we deal with it. That we hear all sides, and
Hmm.
when we hear in all sides, we hear separately, what this person has to say, what that person has to say. We do not bring people together before we kind of show what's going on. We know we have, out of the one story, we might see have six stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have to be able to discern what really is going on, to ask the right questions so that we can get the answers.
Okay.
Ask the
We
right
have a
questions.
thank you. Thank you for
Mhm.
that. It's hitting people really well this morning, this conversation. We have a comment from Casey. She says, I needed this discussion this morning. I just started a new job and have already recognized the person that I will not mesh with well. Oh my goodness. Trying to figure out the best and most professional way to deal with them. And Mrs. Deterville is making some great points. Any advice for her?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, recognizing that is the first step, and that's an important first step. And so, asking herself why. And if the opportunity comes up for a conversation, can we have that conversation? So if something is happening, maybe it's the way the person is treating you, and you have an issue with it, that's where the sort of opportunity for an assertive type conversation comes in. But again, it's not what you say, is how you say it. you
Yeah.
know and you understand, try to understand people as much as possible.
Mhm.
And sometimes, if we follow that, don't take it personal, it may not even have anything to do
To
with you.
do with us.
It
Like
may not
that
have
is the
anything
other
to do with you.
thing.
And we can go off on a tangent thinking that it was all about us, and we continue to develop, that perception, and then
Mhm.
it just, bad matters just become worse.
We'll
So,
talk more about that tomorrow, just about the daily interactions of tone and body language and how we say things to get a certain result, because that's half the battle sometimes. And yeah, I feel like, especially Casey seems to have recognized, okay, you see this person might be trouble. And the minute I recognize that, as I was saying before, the one thing that I start to do is like, manage this one, manage this one. Because, so for example, Tekla, last point, if I may, I, I don't get on very well with people who are very black and white. I think I live on the edges. I live in, how I feel a lot, as opposed to the very, like, those kinds of people, like, oh, you said it has to be done this way and it's not done that way and I'm waiting and whatever, like that. I will. I will shut down and go my way. So I've realized that those kinds of people manage those relationships. And I had a very difficult relationship once with somebody like that. Very cut and dried, very black and white. Like if you say it, she'll expect it at a certain time. I can't live like that. I'm sorry, right? So what I realized she was asking for something we had not agreed to, but I frankly just simply wanted to get her just to deal with her and never have to deal with the situation again. So I was very particular. The minute I saw her email came in, I paid it big attention, sent off whatever she asked for, as because I realized that if I didn't do it that way, we would end up, in conflict, and I really didn't want that. So I'm thinking, like, especially when you recognize those relationships that have the potential for conflict, it really does pay them a little more attention and maybe approach things a bit differently, like from the get-go. And I don't know, what do you think about, do you ever not engage, Tekla? Last question. Do you ever not engage?
Sometimes again, if you've weighed the situation
Mm-hmm.
carefully, timing maybe was important.
Yeah.
So it may not be a situation where you should engage immediately. Well, you've given it some thought, you've looked at it, you've examined it from various angles, and you may time when the engagement takes place. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I remember, dismissing a young lady some years ago, and she stormed off and went to labor department and that sort of thing.
Oh,
And so the labor officer came. I said, okay, fine.
yeah.
Can I have the file? We had the young lady's file. We sat, we had a discussion, and so I gave the labor officer the file.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He went to.
Mm-hmm.
By the time he had gone through the file, what he asked her was, what was he doing? What was he doing there? What was he doing in that meeting?
Mm-hmm.
Because everything, so there'd been opportunities for her to have put things right, because she was given every opportunity. It wasn't a case of, hey, this is really untenable, I can't deal with you, go. Hey, this is what's happening, this is what you can do, this is what we can do, and
Mm-hmm.
let us discuss this, discussion
Mm-hmm.
after discussion after discussion, and you continue on your path. Then you have to take a decision. So it's not about just being nice. It's about you have to be firm, you have to be fair. You
Yes.
have to put yourself in other people's shoes. You have to understand, you have to empathize with people. Sometimes you have to hear people's stories. You have to learn to listen. It will come at you, but again, it's what do you want? And once you
Yeah.
understand what you want, because certainly your intention or your aim is not to be in an environment which is
Toxic.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is
Nobody
toxic.
wants
We
that.
really
I,
don't want the toxic environment. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, what can I do differently to
mhm.
ensure that this environment in which I work looks more like what I want it to look like?
Makes
And
sense.
so, and then we can make the decisions as to, hey, if to engage, when to engage, who to engage. You
Mm-hmm.
recognize who the informal leaders are. I mean, there's so many different approaches. I know these days everybody is more into the Machiavellian approach, but
Uh-huh.
more and more, I mean, that whole emotional intelligence, that
Is
is where it's at. And
mm-hmm.
more we, you know,
That
gravitate towards that concept,
mm-hmm.
the better our relationships will be, both on a
This
personal and professional level.
yeah, the emotional intelligence comes in so many ways. I have found, like, not recently, a couple months ago, I was trying to step in with my son needed something, and I emailed the teacher, and the teacher said, we're teaching them to be advocates for themselves. Please ask him to email me. And I'll never forget that, because it was so true. And I took it into my parenting to
Mhm,
say to
mhm,
my sons, like, if you need something, if you have a problem, be an advocate for yourself. And even though these might be the house rules, for example, a simple thing, advocate for yourself and come have a conversation about why it might be different for you and why you need it to be different for you. And when I look at this concept of, having difficult conversations, being an advocate for yourself in the workplace as well, many people just complain. behind the backs and not in the rooms of the people who can help to make a difference, because we don't feel that we have the power or we have the courage to speak up and to be an advocate for the things that we need. And maybe that might be half the battle in terms of smoothing out conflict, because we're there like, you're having inner turmoil just because you haven't had that proper outlet for it to get a solution to the problem, because you haven't been an advocate.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I guess,
Being able to have those difficult conversations is
yeah,
important. It's
that's what.
it really is important.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And like you said, rightfully, so, sometimes we have a lot to say, but we say behind
Sure.
people's back, but we don't have the courage to, go to somebody and have a conversation. And the thing
Yeah,
is, you don't go, ready for a fight. It's how you present yourself.
yourself. Yeah,
It's your tone of voice, your body language,
yeah.
whether
Or preconceptions
yeah,
that you could
that,
that come up.
mindset. Are you coming in with what's your intent? When you
Yeah.
come in, the intent is there, and the intent guides the action that that follows. And
Okay.
so all of these are things we have to take into consideration.
Right. Well, thank you so much. We're going to stop here because we're going to continue tomorrow. So, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Tomorrow, we're going to be in the To All the Girls Success Club. And so, if you're a lady, please send a friend request into the club, and Tekla will be here tomorrow. As you can see, it's a wealth of information. Do you realize that, you guys, that if we get this right, our workplace interactions can be so much more pleasant. Like, you don't want to be the person that people walk away from and people want to get away from. You want to be that cubicle or that office space where people gravitate to, as opposed to, oh no, no, if she had worked, or she's not at work today, oh thank God. Like, everybody has a colleague like that. She's not at work today. Oh, thank you. That's terrible. But it's the truth. So, Tekla, see you tomorrow. Thank you for giving up some of your time to be here. I think it's well appreciated. And maybe we can read some of the comments in the group after, because
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure our ladies will comment and say
Thank
what
you,
they want.
ladies. Thank you very much. Thank you for the comments, and thank you for your good wishes. Thank you.
Hmm.
Have
Okay. All
a
right, folks. See
nice
you
day
tomorrow.
ahead.
Yes, for sure. Thank you so much. It's
Okay,
really an
okay,
honor and a pleasure.
okay.
So,
Thanks, bye.
double whammy there. Okay, folks, have a
Yeah.
wonderful day,
Bye.
and
Have a good day.
see you
Mhm.
tomorrow. Okay,
Take
so
care.
Casey says
Bye.
thank you. Sienna says timely interview. Okay, folks, have a wonderful day. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Okay.